Okay, welcome back. A motion by Counselor Bojan, seconded by Counselor Rodriguez. With information provided in closed session regarding item A be received. All those in favor? That is carried. And I have a motion by Counselor Bojan, seconded by Counselor Rodriguez. The bylaws 127, 2025 being a bylaw to confirm all resolutions. The council meetings held December the 15th, 2025 be taken as read three times. Finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign said bylaw. All those in favor? That is carried. And I have a motion by Counselor Bojan, Counselor Rodriguez, second, Counselor Bojan. The regular planning meeting be adjourned until the next regular planning meeting, Monday, January the 26th, 2026. All those in favor? That is carried. Those that joined with us briefly, thank you very much. We'll be taking a 10-minute break and resuming our public meeting at 6 o'clock sharp. Diane, thank you for doing that. I'm sure that young lady is very pleased and thankful for what you did in the frigid weather too.
It's for you.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Well done. Okay, let's take us live. Let's do it. I got a horse. To our planning public meeting, zone live zoning bylaw amendment 110 of 2025, December the 15th. 5, call this meeting to order. Meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. Also, I will remind you, if you have a pecuniary interest, please declare it at the time. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment has been submitted by Carl Congus on behalf of the owners of 1272164 Ontario Incorporated to amend the town of Plympton-Wyoming's comprehensive zoning bylaw 97 of 2003 by amending the zoning on portions of the property from residential 5, bracket 5, residential 5, bracket 10, bracket R5, and to allow the development of a single detached dwelling on an area identified as a hazardous slope, subject to the application site-specific provisions and required written permissions from the Conservation Authority. The hazard H zone is to remain as it currently exists in the property. This time, it's my pleasure to introduce members of council and staff that we have with us. On my left, I have Mr. Adam Sabansky, our Chief Administrative Officer, Nettie McEwen, our Deputy Mayor, Councillor John Van Claveren, Councillor Bob Wolvett. To my right, I have our Clerk, Aaron Kowarchuk, Councillor Kristen Rodriguez, Councillor Alex Bojan. Also to my right, we have our Senior Planner, Maria Conservasi, and Jordan Wallace, our Planner. And back to my left extreme, I have our Planning Technician on the controls, Diane Gould-Brown. So, Ms. Gould-Brown, official notice, has it been emailed to the required agencies and posted on site and mailed to neighboring property owners within 120 meters of the subject lands on November the 24th, 2025?
Yes, I can confirm that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So next I'll go to the summary of the planning report. I'm going to call on Jordan Wallace, our planner. The report that was dated November the 9th, 2025 regarding zone bylaw amendment application 110 of 2025 affecting the lands municipally known as 6851 Fleming Road, submitted by 1272161 Ontario Incorporated, called Carl Congus as agent. I have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Bojan, the report by Jordan Wallace, planner dated November the 9th, 2025, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application 110-2025. Let it be received. So Planner Wallace, floor is now yours for your report.
Your Worship. So the application before council is for the property known as 6851 Fleming Road. The subject lands are located on the west side of Fleming Road, situated between two existing residential subdivisions to the north and south. The property features sloping topography and wooded areas throughout, with Arrow Creek running east to west through the lands. So the application seeks to rezone the property from the existing R5 zone to the site-specific residential 5 exception 10, so R5 10 zone, while retaining the existing hazard zone on the property. The purpose of the site-specific zoning is to permit the construction of a single detached dwelling with a walkout basement that would encroach past the top of bank of the secondary slope, but would not extend past the toe of the slope. So the subject property has had a history of planning approvals. The land was previously involved with several consent applications that addressed encroachment issues affecting neighboring properties, as well as an approved minor variance that established a site-specific erosion hazard limit based on a detailed geotechnical analysis completed in January of 2023. So the current application builds on that earlier work and is supported by an updated geotechnical and engineered studies prepared by WSP Canada. in November 2024 and subsequently revised in October 2025 to incorporate a review of the proposed grading plans and architectural drawings. These studies state that the secondary slope is stable and can safely accommodate the proposed dwelling, provided that all recommended mitigation measures are adhered to. So from a provincial planning statement perspective, the development is generally directed away from lands affected by natural hazards. However, the statement also permits development within hazardous areas where the risk to public safety are low and can be appropriately mitigated through engineering controls and safe access standards. So in this case, the proposal for the single residential dwelling, in this case, the proposal is for a single detached residential dwelling, is not an institutional or emergency related use, and the supporting technical studies demonstrate that the development will not create new hazards or aggravate existing. The County of Plympton official plan contains similar policy direction with respect to development on lands affected by natural hazards. The county policies prioritize public safety and environmental protection, while allowing development to proceed where hazards can safely be addressed through appropriate studies and mitigation measures. And staff are satisfied that the proposal conforms to these policies. The town official plan contains specific policies intended to mitigate risks associated with natural hazards, including steep slopes and watercourse valley lands. Development is only permitted where hazards can be appropriately addressed through geotechnical and engineering measures, and where new hazards are not created and where existing hazards are identified. In this case, those mitigation objectives are achieved through a combination of measures, including an establishment of a defined building envelope, so where the proposed dwelling is, the submission of a detailed geotechnical assessment, and the requirement of approved grading and drainage plans designed to prevent the uncontrolled surface water slope. So the proposed dwelling avoids the creek and its associated vegetation. It's located above the regulatory flood limit and maintains safe access from Fleming Road. So the application has been circulated to all required departments and agencies in accordance with the Planning Act, and with particular attention given to the St. Clair Conservation Authority, which has worked closely with the applicant and with staff in reviewing the development on the subject lands. So the SCRCA has reviewed multiple iterations over the planning processes and the history of this site, as well as the current proposal or current application. So they have reviewed multiple iterations of the geotechnical report, the architectural drawings, grading plans, and have confirmed that they are satisfied with the findings of the most recent geotechnical assessment. So the Conservation Authority has provided comments that they are satisfied that the proposed development can be safely accommodated within the secondary slope, provided that all recommendations outlined in the geotechnical report are adhered to. The SCRCA has also emphasized that no further encroachment in the erosion hazard limit is permitted without additional engineering review and approval. And then any future changes to the approved plans would require review by both the town and the SCRCA, along with written confirmation from the consulting geotechnical engineer. The SCRCA again has noted that all site grading and drainage must be designed to prevent uncontrolled discharge of water over the slopes. And again, written permission from the SCRCA under Ontario Regulation 41.4 will be required prior to any construction or site alteration. So the proposed site-specific zoning retains the hazard designation and restricts development to the defined building envelope, which is the proposed dwelling. And limits permitted uses to ensure that there's consistency with the provincial and official plan policies. So together, these measures ensure that the development can proceed safely without creating new hazards or worsening existing ones, while respecting the natural heritage features associated with Arrow Creek. And then based on all applicable provincial, county, and town policies, and the supporting technical studies and comments received from internal departments and external agencies, particularly from the SCRCA, staff are in the opinion that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with policy, represents good planning, and can be supported. So therefore, staff are recommending the council approve this application.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walls. That was a comprehensive report. Thank you. This time I go to item 7 on the agenda, and that is a overall proposal by the applicant or the agent. So, Mr. Congus, are you going to be speaking? Sir, can I get your name, the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Rob Panzer. I'm a retired municipal planner and part-time planning consultant, and gradually winding down my consulting business, but Mr. Congress manages to still draw me in on the odd thing that I'm finishing up with. I have to hand it to Mr. Congress. He's been very persistent over the last 3 years because this proposal for a single detached dwelling has been in the works for some time. And it really amazes me at how many different specialists have been sort of brought into the mix here. Fluvio-geomorphologists, geotechnical engineers, and et cetera, hydraulic stream analysts. And these people have gone through several iterations of the reports to get to the point we're at now. So it's nice to be before you with staff. I congratulate Jordan on having done a great job and a very good report. And we thank her for moving this along as well as she has. And of course, we fully support the report and the recommendation before you. Mr. Congress realizes that there are still steps to go. He's close to the finish line, but not there yet. He still will require, obviously, building permits and whatnot and conservation authority approval before we can get to that point even. So it's, I think I'll just leave it at that. I think Mr. Congress intends to build a very nice dwelling on this property, which would be very much in keeping with the rest of the character of the surrounding residential subdivisions. And I think it can be built on without requiring any additional municipal infrastructure or servicing. So I think it would be a credit to your municipality to have this structure built. And Mr. Congress is certainly available to answer any questions you may have specifically about what it is he wants to build.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Panzer. We're going to be getting to Mr. Congus in a moment. There has been some correspondence received. Council, you have received it electronically and a hard copy from our planning technician. You have both of those before you. I have a motion, planning technician, was there anything else that has come in?
No, I've noticed.
Okay. So I have a motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Councilor Wilbett to receive correspondence that we've received from members of the public. All those in favor on that motion? Carried. So now we'll go to questions from council members. Beginning on my right this time, Councilor Bolgen, anything from you?
Yeah, I guess I do have a question, and then just to the letters we did receive, just because they're well written, just to echo some of those concerns, just to kind of help get through some hurdles in my own brain. So I guess I'll talk about the two concerns that I have, and then I have a question for staff. The first concern is just being asked to approve development in an area where the zoning bylaw is quite explicit, that it's trying to protect. It talks about setbacks from natural water courses, prohibits permanent structures and hazardous lands, and all the stuff that was already mentioned in the report. But we're always told that these aren't discretionary guidelines; these are long-term land use planning and zoning rules. So it just gets confusing when on this side of the table we suddenly get encouraged to go against our own zoning bylaw. So I'm just kind of trying to set the stage for where I'm coming from, just for getting me over these considerations. And then the feasibility as the engineering feasibility justification, because in my brain, I always go back to technical risk mitigation doesn't automatically replace good land use planning, which leads to my main question, because we didn't have access to the technical studies reports, nor should I, because to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't understand it. But my understanding is that Arrow Creek is used by drainage systems from the adjacent land, and I could be wrong, but That's my understanding. And it will be used for additional land that's north of Egremont, adjacent to the golf course. It's my understanding that that is all future development. And I've seen it with my own eyes that Arrow Creek is already erosion like crazy, not necessarily on your property, but downstream. I know of several properties where that erosion is happening. So I'm just wondering, these studies, were they done in a snapshot of today, or do those studies take into consideration of future upstream development, the cumulative drainage impacts on that creek if that land is developed as it's supposed to be? Because there's a lot of lots coming in, and it's my understanding that it drains into Arrow Creek, or will drain into Arrow Creek, I should say. Because I'm not worried about building a house right now. I'm worried about when that, if that did happen and that basement floods, and now they're at town hall saying, hey, my basement flooded because your creek overflowed or something like that. So I'm just wondering are those studies a snapshot of today, or does it take into consideration how many houses could get built?
So the study that was done by Greg and Associates, which is the floodplain analysis, he did one for us in 2002, but he's also done one in 2022 or 2023 for Longo subdivision. It takes in all development, and Eric Greg identifies that. I think Eric is second generation because they did our study in 2002, and he doesn't look old enough to be of an engineering firm back then. But anyways, it would have been, it would take into account, I think there's a restricted flow at Arrow Creek, not at Arrow Creek, but at Fleming, the structure there is a restriction. So it's not a shot in time. They have to take into account the whole drainage area. So it doesn't just take in housing, it takes in farm fields and so on. Maybe Adam can talk a little bit more about drainage.
Carl? I can defer too. Thank you, Carl. So our planning staff, I know they're supportive of this and it's good land use planning stuff, but thinking that long term, there's no concerns whatsoever of all of those houses that will eventually be built with a house sitting that close to the roading.
Sorry, through you.
Sorry, yeah, I can clarify. Sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
Okay.
so we received a study from the applicant, which is good. So is our staff confident in that it took into consideration of all the future development and all the plans that we have for that area and for the houses that will be done?
Yes, so we've worked with Sinclair Conservation Authority to go through all the what they look at as well. So they do regulate flooding, and so they've reviewed these drawings, and they reviewed the all reports that have been associated with anything that we've looked at. They are satisfied with the findings, so they are aware of Eric Greg's findings. They're satisfied with the findings of that.
And show you a drawing here. So,
Now that I've had a minute to contemplate,
okay.
I also can confirm any new development that would flow into Arrow Creek. They generally have to have stormwater management in place. They're not supposed to put more water in at any faster rate than they currently do. Some developments, they don't want restrictions because they want that water to go in quick and then go out quick, i.e. Longo's development didn't require any quantity control because they wanted that water to get in right away and then flow out before the water of the upstream lands were slowly released by the stormwater management bond. So based on that, Conservation Authority or whoever replace it does look at the whole drainage area and how to release that waters in a manner not to adversely affect the downstream property owners.
Because the only reason I'm worried about is because I see the downstream property down here, there's 4 that I've been on. It's I mean, there's erosion like crazy. But again, it's not the building that I'm worried about, it's the owner in 10 years from now, if something were to happen, we're the ones that, staff are gonna be the ones that get
So
yelled at.
this is from Breck and Associates,
Mhm.
even if you just catch that.
I'll get yelled at too. Scott Rossi?
I'll give up the floor after as well, after talking to them.
Through your worship. It's important to note that planning to the policy regulations that they are. We need to rely on the experts like the engineers and need to rely on the experts at the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. And so we rely on the information that they provide to us and their assessment. So according to their studies, the assessment of staff, Conservation Authority, meaning that this is something that can be reasonably accommodated in the context of taking into account the hazard of the floodplain itself. So we can only go with their recommendations. Certainly if the engineers and conservation had concerns with this type of development, because initially our response was, we have concerns, but we needed to so Jordan worked very collaboratively with a number of different agencies and the engineers and the applicant. This was a very long process and a very detailed process. So from a planning perspective, we feel that we've addressed the issues with the information that's been provided to us based on the number of studies conducted, based on the comfort level that conservation has with this type of development. Initially, obviously, we highlighted the concerns with this type of development and the impacts, but we can't make that sort of technical assessment. We need to leave that to the experts to be able to provide us with direction.
Thank you both.
I wonder if I could just make one comment, the concern about the changes to regulatory lines that have been set in place. And I think one of the objection letters kind of raised the same point. But when these hazard lines are put in place, they're based on very broad tabletop applications where they don't have the level of precision that you would get having done very site-specific geotechnical studies. And so the policies, rightly, in your official plan, in the provincial planning statement, allow for that measure of flexibility to refine hazard lines based on these more specific, site-specific studies. And that's what's happening in this case.
I guess I'll go back to my concern being the owner 10 years from now when they lose that first slope. And now all they have is their house in the back. Well, anyways, I thank you for answering those questions.
I think there's a lot more engineering involved today than there was back then when they approved construction and so on. There's a lot more studies. We had 4 engineers, one guy's PhD in alluvial geomorphology. It's a big word.
Letters, but I still see the bank falling.
On the north side was a little bit of settlement. In the south side, there's no erosion issues. And the water does come up at high season or periodically, but it's a very intermittent. And Greg's study talks about how that's dealt with and so on. And you're right, it's technical.
Mr. Congress.
Well, Councillor Bojan, to add to your comment, though, not only will staff hear about it, council will hear about it too, the flooding.
Because their whole backyard, theoretically, the conservation area is still concerned with an entire backyard flooding. It's just they can't put.
This is at the high water mark. This is a 1 in 500 year event. And we have to achieve a 1 in Hurricane Hazel event, which is just a little higher than 1 in 100 year. So the area that would be the backyard for this walkout, and the walkout will still be 2 feet higher than that lower level. That is not a floodplain as identified or, in the geotechnical study. It's also not an erosion issue on the bank on the south side. On the north side, different animal. We're talking about the south side. It won't disrupt the housing. South side.
A lot of time being here in 10 years. No, thank you, Mr. Congress. I appreciate
You know
it.
what? I've been 30 years and it hasn't changed in 30 years.
We've got a lot more storms and rain, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'll give up the floor. I'm hogging it now. Thank you, Mr. Congress.
Well, Daisy's not here, so. Hey, Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you. Well, I have to say, If you got past the Conservation Authority, you must be okay. There's nobody tougher to get by than the conservation.
My wife might be.
Oh.
Sure, on YouTube, eh?
Well, thorough reports you had to do must have cost a small fortune, I'm sure. But they're very in-depth, I'm sure. Like I said, if the Conservation Authority, because that's your toughest. They're going to be at a much higher level of wanting mitigation measures, wanting to make sure that this is an appropriate use for this. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
It's a death of 1,000 cuts. Every study.
And it's good. That means a lot of due diligence was done here, so I appreciate what the neighbors are feeling, knowing, choosing to buy there or build there or whatever. Thinking that this is just going to be naturalized land. I can see your side of it though, where you have this a large piece of land and only a very small portion of none of which had a home on it. That is very hard to control that as a property owner when you're not on the property. And it becomes everybody's property for the taking. And it creates a lot of problems long term. So I'd rather see somebody on this land who's going to provide that stewardship and responsibility and take care of it and maintain it. I think that's important long term. So while I appreciate that it's, sucks they're gonna have a house or may have a house next door to them, but I also feel it's a benefit to everybody to have somebody on that land properly taken care of it.
The two people that had concerns live on the north side of the creek. This house, the building envelopes on the south side, so it won't have any impact on them whatsoever. And the north side is walking paths. And I've never had an issue with anybody. Mind you, you're right, stewardship. You take care of something unless you're living there.
Well, I see it all the time. I see it all the time on lakefront properties where there's these lots that haven't been able to develop on, and they're just infill lots like this would be. And there's no stewardship, there's no care being done, and it creates a derelict property, it's problems for neighbors. So to have some sort of ownership on that would,
It's a positive.
yeah, a tremendous positive way around.
All right, thank you. Deputy?
Yes, yeah, we've had lots of studies and everything and all sorts of consultants on this. But in my experience, the consultants that you hire, they work for you. And there's very few that go against the person they're working for.
Unless they have their own personal stamp and liability on it, and engineers do have a liability when they stamp something.
Thank you for that. Yes. So Jordan, when these studies come through and the Conservation Authority looks at them, they study them very well. They don't have to go through their own studies.
So through you, I believe they do have their own regulations that they base their comments on, based on the information that they are provided with, which were outlined in the comments that were attached with the report. So we worked with Carl to provide, well, originally he had provided the geomorphology from Greg Garland and the geotechnical reports, as well as the reports from the flood analysis from Eric Breck, which then we required him to then provide architectural drawings, which reflected the recommendations in the geotechnical report. So he was required to provide us with the footings, backfill information that the geotechnical reports that they needed. We then got the geotechnical report for the geotechnical engineers, those drawings, and essentially they we required that they review them and approve them and say that these are to their satisfaction, which then when there was a revision as well, we then required another review from the geotechnical engineer. So there was back and forth with the drawings to ensure that everything that conservation was asking for, to ensure that the mitigation measures were met. So there was a lot of back and forth with these reports and with conservation as well to make sure.
Counselor Rossi?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to also add that this proposal has been worked on for a considerable amount of time. Initially, when the application came in, the applicant was looking for a larger footprint beyond what is being proposed today. And at that point in time, conservation felt that if the applicant wanted to move beyond this point, that there would be a third-party review required for everything. So there's been some modifications from the initial application that has come in. There's been a lot of work done between staff, consultants, and conservation and the applicant to modify the original proposal to ensure that there is staff at the Conservation Authority that has reviewed the studies and what's been proposed. So there's been quite a bit of modification done on this. So if there was development proposed further beyond this area that's being looked at today, then a third-party review would have been required at that time.
That's sort of,
One of the comments that he is, just in summary on WSP's engineering report. For on the slope for walkout, it says, should unsuitable founding conditions be encountered during excavation at the design footing level, WSP should be contacted for inspection to provide a geotechnical engineering recommendations. So the soil stood.
absolutely.
And there's also a comment here, all proposed work should be carried out with the consent of St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority where required and abide by all local and regional bylaws and regulations. So building department comes and does inspections. Engineer probably want to inspect when things are dug.
You've been there 30 years. I've been
No, but you're a bit older than me.
a little. So anyway, have you ever seen that?
Only known you for 30 years.
Have you ever seen? Good thing you're on the other side.
It's safer over here.
Looking for something to throw right now.
Dr. Mary, she said she'd straighten you out.
So anyway, have you ever seen that ditch overflow?
No, and I'll show you a picture when it's high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I must have seen it then when it was higher then, because I'm pretty sure it went over the edges,
No, never has.
not when you happen to be out. Anyway, it's okay. I don't need to see a picture. You're gonna obviously give me a picture of what
Right.
they happened.
Right.
Not AI generated, is it?
We are building on the south side,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
and that's high water mark, and it's
Mhm.
still a meter higher than the high water mark that way.
And it's never gone any higher than that.
It's not.
I'm concerned that where your walkout is, your basement walkout, is that
Will still be 2 feet higher than that.
2 feet higher than the water,
No, no, no.
2 feet
So-
higher than the top of the bank?
Okay, no, 2 feet higher than the top.
Yes, yes.
So the top of the bank is still a meter higher than the high water
Yeah.
mark. So you like 5.5 feet higher than the water.
Okay, and then what if you have a problem there?
What's that?
If you do have a problem there,
Go back after the
you go-
engineer.
you go to us?
No,
Oh,
engineer, because he stamped this.
all right. That's right
Stamp it.
next to here. Thank you.
Promise.
That's
Greg.
Okay, one more question. What are you gonna do with that part that's you want zoned residential on the north side?
No, I don't want anything.
Plans for that?
I didn't want any.
Nothing?
It's not me. I'm not building on it. I just want to sell it.
Sorry,
Okay. You really want
Ms. Wallace?
sorry, through you, Mr. or Your Worship, in the bylaw
Mhm.
there, so.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be able to build on anything else. I get.
Well, that, to there's a lot.
There's a
development
pond.
road allowance there that is for the access to the water management plan. And there is lands that are identified as hazardous that go over where the I guess, where the frontage of this property is. So in the bylaw, it does, the bylaw, the site specific, it does state that, all accessory building structures and uses on the property shall be accessed only from portions of the law with safe access or right of way.
I
No
didn't
building
read
or-
that, but you gotta cover all your tracks.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a second sentence as well, but it also states that no building or structure shall be located within or accessed through areas identified as hazardous or otherwise deemed inaccessible for safe entry.
Okay,
So that essentially
thank you.
is not.
So one of the concerns was from somebody backed onto our property at the top,
Yes.
and had put an extension on his shed that was on our property and used it for storage and stuff behind him. So I asked him if he would, well, he was a handful, so I just called by law enforcement and they said, get your stuff off. So he's got a bit of axe to grind.
Okay. I think that's all for now. Thank you.
Right, Councillor Van Claveren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Carl, you are persistent and creative and I understand that. You have a parcel of land there you want to put to good use.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess my question would be, because we have to always be a little sensitive about setting a precedence with like zoned properties that might still be in our municipality that somebody might want to do something with and creep this direction or step that direction before you know it.
I'll address that right
Yeah,
now.
please.
It's not much of a creep, like Maria said. It took years and many independent engineering studies. So we've had WSP, which is the largest engineering country. It's a major international engine. Well, we've had that associates that does most of the floodplain studies in the area. We were able to use all those study because it was recent. That study would be 25 grand if I had to pay for it myself. WSP is money. I had to bring my water line in off Fleming because we couldn't anyways. My consultant is a development engineer. He ain't free. He's got a master's degree in civil engineering. My own engineer, Dobbin. It is not something that you do sleight of hand.
Oh, yeah, I certainly
Something
sure didn't mean to
to-
imply that that would be the case. It's more of, we make a subtle adjustment to what seemed to be a very clear zoning. And the rules are all laid out there and then we adjust that subtly for an individual and somebody else could potentially. And before you know it, you've landed over
Okay.
here where you didn't necessarily intend to be.
So as Mr. Panzer talked, Mr. Panzer retired as the director of planning for the city of London. So he ran the whole development program in the city of London. What I will say is this, he explained when you do your zoning, when you do specific studies on a specific site, they have to meet what you are looking for. And that's what took a few years. And, take a look at this way, take a look at, you've had 4 revisions from WSP alone. So it's when you get into the site specific studies,
Sure.
that determines. So I mean, the only thing that restricts this lower level from being rezoned residential is it is part of a valley area, and the Conservation Authority regulates valley areas, but site-specific studies say it is not a flood zone and it is not an erosion hazard on the south side. And then, your studies also, your engineers also have to give you a lot grading plan to say where the water goes and how it's dealt with and no impacts and on stuff. We did clean up the lot. We didn't take any the trees down. There's some dead trees down there that were hazardous, some laying on the ground, some standing. And Conservation Authority says you can remove anything that's more than 4 inches in diameter. But a lot of the stuff on that south side was pickers and wild raspberries and stuff. And just going in there with a machine and chewing it all up made it a different cup of tea altogether. But like I said, a death of 1,000 cuts, 2,500 here, 4 grand there, 15 grand there, 3 grand there. It's death of 1,000 cuts. It's not something that.
That's what happens to a man that doesn't know the meaning of the word quit. And I appreciate that.
You're right. You're right.
I appreciate that. Do we know what size a home is gonna be built in there?
No, but the plan we put on was 2,000 square foot bungalow with a 2-car garage.
Okay.
And we wanted to pull it back as far away from the road as possible. Walkout basements are desirable because they give you that much more living space that's functional. But also, it pulls the house further away from the road. And that road is a 50-kilometer-an-hour road, but there's people that go 80 kilometers down there. So we wanted to have enough space there so you could turn around and nose out. That's a safety issue, but so it created, by doing a walkout basement, that allowed us to more space up top in order to, nose out.
Would there be the willingness to compromise on that area over the top of the bank, that extends over the top of the bank?
Sure what you mean.
It might be more palatable to our council if we were.
You want to read some of these engineering reports. So this bank that we proposed, to put a house in is a very, very gentle slope. I will show you a picture of it.
Okay.
Just so that you can see. There's a picture here, 1,000 words, okay.
Total.
Gentle slope.
Yeah. Mhm.
Very gentle slope.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna have to.
See a picture of the home? The
Well, just pictures this.
Also, so that.
I won't try.
It's a very gentle slope. Actually, my report visual.
Yeah.
The slope, and then this is where the bank
Yeah.
is. This is, so it's a secondary.
Showing that to council, Carl.
And so the one drawing
Just there the other day, yeah.
With
toe.
no.
So now I don't have it. I have another one. It's on the grading.
Get to the nudies.
A reminder, we are alive on YouTube.
Sorry. There's nothing there.
Yeah. I feel like
This is a little bit easier.
thank you. They don't have a-
To,
Yeah.
it's
I
technically.
think that's all for me, Mr. Mayor.
All right, lost Maria somewhere.
Anything else good on here?
Yeah.
Ms. Gazarovski, did you want to say something before we move on to Councilor?
It's where it stop point.
Just wanted to. Not sure what this is, but it would, we're trying to bring up asbestos.
You go ahead.
It's all right, okay. We just wanted to offer a point of clarification in terms of the flexibility. So in the policies, they provide more flexibility, just general flexibility in terms of the strategic policies that pertain to each designated area. Then the zoning itself is more restrictive. Those are the tools that we use to put the policies in place. However, in these types of areas, although the zoning is restrictive for conservation and protection purposes, the policies do outline points of justification to allow for changes. And that's why the site-specific rezoning is an opportunity for applicants who feel that their specific scenario allows for modifications. So the policies do indicate, you know, you'll have to do geomorphology or the fluvial studies. So those are what justify the proposal moving forward. So the flexibility is also there because the mapping that was used to develop the policies and the regulations were at a static point in time, and over time they do change. And so that flexibility in being able to go in and do specific studies, more recent studies, to see how those changes have evolved over time, those also provide the justification of whether or not a proposal can move forward. And that's why there were so many agencies and consultants working on this proposal, is because we need to rely on their expert opinion and advice based on the work that they've done. Is there any other questions in terms of the flexibility? Because it is a very valid point. The zoning does restrict, but there is that flexibility to go back and revisit to see if in that specific, for that specific parcel, if that is still if you still want to move forward to maintain that, or if there is an allowance for change. Okay.
Thank you.
This is one of the drawings. Jordan, do you want to maybe walk?
There's one from the geotechnical report, but I don't know if it will, you can pull it up. Or we can start, I can bring it around to everyone. If
I don't know if it's not on the agenda, we don't have.
Okay.
access to it.
I saw that one already, I think. Oh, no, freshman me. My answer, you guys answer and then.
I'm gonna run.
Oh, please.
All right.
Yeah, so there are two slopes associated with the pool there.
That's good to know.
Just.
Then Jordan will bring them.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. Councilor Wilbett, the floor is now yours. Questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, there's been quite a discussion around the table on this, and it's interesting to listen to. But all the time I've been on this council, we've had a lot of issues around ravines, around creeks, around drainage, around anything to do going anywhere near ravines or creeks, and it's always the understanding that that's why these areas were zoned and made hazardous areas. That's the reason they done that, is to make sure we didn't get into any trouble. However, over the years, I've been involved in several issues within this municipality with water issues and housing and erosion and creeks, and we're going through some of them right as we speak. So you look how cautious we're being because of that. And even the letters, that we receive here, they're talking about what in the world are you doing, building in hazardous, defined hazardous areas.
So how
Whether this is
do
correct.
they determine hazard?
Well, I don't, conservation does that.
Ask a planner, because a planner can explain it to
And then
you.
getting into the conversation, but Maria just talked about flexibility.
Well,
I understand.
so they'll look at a topographical mapping and say, this is hazardous. But until you get on a site-specific study and you get down there on the site and you have professional engineers do their testing,
Oh, I understand that.
and that's what they've done.
We have several different subdivisions that are going on right now that had to go through all the same type of stuff.
Exactly.
And matter of fact, there's one out there off of Egerman. I mean, they weren't allowed to get anywhere near top of that bank, not even close to it. And so, we've been dealing with this, but I can't sit here and argue with all of the engineering and all the studies you've done, because I'm certainly no expert on it. So this is the kind of stuff that was brought to the council is what we have to listen to. The expertise, the engineers, the the reports from our own planners, and that's how we make our decisions, right?
So there's a bit of a scratch on distances.
Yes.
So you're probably, you
Well,
know,
and I get it, because lots of times I know I own property and in my own piece of property, it was all, whole area was designated hazardous, even without my input. And
it's always without.
but there's the flexibility if I wanted to build something to go back and have that tree.
So that'll give you a bit of an idea. We're at least 150 feet from the top of the bank.
And myself on a piece of property I had in a skillet, I built a drive shed. And there was a stop work order put on by the Conservation Authority. I was too close to the bank. Well, I was on, similar to you, I was on the upper, way on the upper bank. The creek was
Yeah.
hundreds of feet away.
So,
It turned out I still had to be 50 feet back on top of that bank.
well, yeah,
Little
15,
Shed, so
15 meters, unless you do all your engineering studies, which is a soil study,
oh, expensive too.
and that's what I've gone through.
We here have been getting involved in a lot of this kind of stuff, creeks, ravines, houses being built. So that's what puts us in a bad position when,
Oh, you have no liability. The engineer that does a report puts a stamp on it. He is liable for his study.
but this piece of property up there, Mr. Congus, like we've been dealing with this for several years.
Yeah,
As you know, I think you even tried to give it away at one time.
I'd give it to you.
Mistake, I'm not sure.
Did.
Just a sharp.
Mr. Panders said, when he walked it, he says,
Give it away.
should have taken it.
To give it to us, if we said we don't want any part, because of what we're discussing, because of what we're discussing here tonight, same thing, eh? So, yeah, I hear your studies and our own
Yep.
planners, so,
There's a
what else
protocol.
can I say other than we're not engineers? We're not
No, that's true.
planners, so we listen to our, that's all I have to say, thank you.
Counselor, are there any other presentations from members of the public? Nothing's coming online, we're good. Okay, any further questions from council? My right. My left. Okay. Yep, so going back to motion by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Bojan. The report by Jordan Wallace, planner, dated December the 9th, 2025, regarding zoning bylaw amendment application 110-2025, affecting the lands municipally known 6851 Fleming Road, submitted by 1272161 Ontario Incorporated, Carol Gongus as agent be received. To receive that report, all those in favor? It's carried.
Nobody objected?
We're not done yet, Carol. I was just to receive her report.
It's gonna take them a lot longer to read the next one.
For this next one is long, it usually comes from Rodriguez, but that's okay. I'll give it a try. Moved by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Councilor Wolf. That bylaw 110 of 2025 being a bylaw to rezone the subject lands, the residential 5 bracket R5 zone and hazard H zone, the site specific residential 5 bracket 10 bracket R5 10 zone and hazard H zone, following conditions be approved and taken as having been read 3 times. And finally passed, the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw. Number 1, the hazard H zone remain as it currently exists over the subject lands. Number 2, permit from St. Clair Region Conservation Authority under Ontario Regulation 41/24 is required before undertaking any works on subject property, including development, construction, placement or removal of fill regarding drainage, regrading, drainage works or other site alterations within the regulated area. Building permits required for any new development proposal on the site. The proposed plan shall be approved by the town before permit issuance. Number 4, that all development, including excavation, foundation construction, and any site alteration be carried out in accordance with the recommendations contained in the WSP Geotechnical Assessment 2025. Any revisions to the architectural or grading plans shall require stamped confirmation by WSP and that the revised design remains consistent with the recommendations must be approved by the town. That no buildings, structures, or site alterations occur within the area identified as hazard H except where permitted by in accordance with written approval by the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. 6, prior to the issuance of a building permit, final grading and drainage plan shall be submitted to the satisfaction of the town of Plympton-Wyoming Public Works Department, the consulting geotechnical engineers, and the SCRCA. No grading or site alterations shall occur until written confirmation of approval has been provided from all required parties. 7, geotechnical monitoring or inspections carried out during the foundation and grading works required by the consulting geotechnical engineer, and a final letter of compliance be submitted to the town and SCRCA upon completion of construction. Council, that is the motion. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Motion carries.
The hand wasn't high enough.
I tried to put it up.
Thank you.
Okay, I have there's an appeal. Zoning bylaw amendment.
Oh.
Oh, they're gonna be processed.
Oh.
Ross, go get her. Thank you.
There's an appeal, the zoning bylaw amendment, the applicant, the registered owner of the land, the minister or a specified person or public body who made verbal presentations, public meeting, or provided written correspondence before a decision was made regarding the bylaw may appeal the council's decision of the zoning bylaw amendment to the Imperial Land Tribunal within 20 days from the date of notice of the decision of the bylaw is given. I have a motion by Councillor Wolbeth, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the public meeting be adjourned. Before I do adjourn, call for the vote. I want to thank our planner and our senior planner and our planning technician, what they did on this everything for this meeting tonight. As we wrap up this is our last meeting for 2025. We'll be back in council on January 14th. Back here in planning at the end of the month. Moved by Councilor Wolvett, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the public meeting be adjourned. All those in favor? This meeting is adjourned. Merry Christmas, everyone.
It's too bad.